a few minutes. Let's see. Okay. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is how do you build trust into AI products, right? And to help us with that topic, we actually have in our studio Jayant Lakshmikanthan. Jayant is currently the VP of Product at Overjet, an innovative AI company that's transforming oral health. Prior to that, Jayant led product at Google, where I also worked, multiple startups, including Lean Taz and Clara Analytics. And Jayant has been working on AI-related products and platforms for the last 10 years, sectors like healthcare and insurance. Jayant, I'm so glad you're welcome to the show. As for me, my name is Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations use AI to become more effective and efficient. And you can learn more about me at echo-point.com. So with that being said, let's get into it. Yes, Jayant?
Yep.
So Jayant, if it's okay with you, let's start with the big picture. Yes, tell us more about just Overjet and what are you guys trying to build?
Yeah, first of all, Mustafa, thanks a lot for inviting me to this. I've seen some of the episodes out here. Great job on all the episodes, and you raised the bar quite high. So hopefully
Thank
we
you.
can meet it or beat it. But great to reconnect as well. Mustafa, you've been
Yes.
for quite some
By
time.
the way, Jayant and I used to work at Deloitte together for a very long time. So it's
Yeah.
kind of nice. This is kind of nice that we talk about our favorite topics and we get to reconnect at the same time. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this.
go ahead at that time. So it's changed quite a bit. So a bit about Overjet itself. Overjet, our focus is on improving oral health care for all.
Yes.
And we want to do this in three ways. Firstly, we want to be able to empower dentists to provide better care. That's number one. If you go to a dentist right now, the chances of, if the same exact kind of situation, right? If you go to multiple dentists, you'll probably get different
Yeah.
recommendations. So really
Yes.
empowering dentists to provide the best care and consistent care is one big goal for us. The second one is enabling patients to also achieve the right outcomes, access to better quality care, and also making informed decisions. Educating the patients about like
Nice.
which what the paths are, and making it very clear and transparent is one big part of it as well. And the third thing is there's a lot of administrative friction in the whole
Yeah.
process, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. So we have products in the dentist side of things, kind of like assistants for dentists on a variety of problems. We also have products on the insurance side of things, which is what I lead.
Nice.
Is focused on helping with the processing of dental claims, as well as helping the dentists within the insurance companies also handle claims, make decisions. And we
Yeah.
also have products now that bridging the gap, that are connecting
Nice.
the dentist with the insurance companies as well.
Perfect.
The thing about all of what we do is the common theme is it's all about improving patient care. So
Yes.
all of
I
us
like
have
that.
all of us have had teeth problems, and all of us have faced like issues with going to the dentist, going through the whole process of getting oral health care. I have done that many times where it's been so problematic that I've essentially delayed my treatment by 6 months, and then
Yes.
really
Yes.
complicated. So we're trying to essentially solve that from all these
Yeah.
different ways.
I like I like the product because you're absolutely right. The way we actually our experience with dentists actually has not changed that much in the last 20 years, right? The digital experience that you actually have with you can now provide in along with the dental work, right? At least with my dentist, I actually don't experience that at all, right? It's still like I think my experience has been the same as what it has been 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and I still have to call them to make appointments.
Yeah,
I have no idea what happens at the end of the summary. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's no reports and so on and so forth. So it's kind of, I'm glad that you're filling a niche, or sorry, niche and a need. John, do you focus on certain types of dentists? Like you have big dental offices, you have the small, medium-sized ones, and then you have the Lone Ranger. Is there a specific area that you focus on, or
no,
what's your ideal customer?
it's actually quite broad. Many
Hmm.
of our customers are conglomerates of dental offices called DSOs, dental service
Hmm.
organizations. There's a lot of like push towards doing that in terms of efficiencies, consistency of cares, because many dentists they don't want to worry about the business side of things so much. They actually want to
Yeah.
focus on the
I want to
art.
focus on what they were. Yeah. what
These are
they're passionate about.
all right. And so there are companies out there that are coming in that are essentially trying to bring offices together, creating standards around it, and then the dentists kind of do what they like to do best. And so many of our customers are there. They are DSOs, but there are other customers as well that are smaller
Got it.
shops as well. So no real restriction there. But the
Yeah.
industry itself is shifting a lot towards there's more consolidation happening. There's more
Mm,
private equity also coming in to drive that. And so it's a very dynamic environment. And
yeah.
you will actually feel that over the next few years. But I'm surprised to see how much of like energy is being put into kind of innovating in the dentistry space. And it's been
Yeah.
quite enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot that you can do, right? Like I said, the just the whole healthcare experience is changing dramatically, and the fact that you guys are focused on this experience is great. So tell me more about the products, right? So I know you're building AI products, or you're embedding AI into all your services and products. Um, and I'm sure it's not easy. So maybe a quick overview on the product itself, and then let's kind of talk about the challenges. Like, what are you facing? What are the challenges you're facing as you're trying to embed AI into your products
Sure,
suite?
sure, sure. Absolutely. So at the core technology, I mean, if you go to the core of what we do at Overjet, we process a variety of structured and unstructured data and then combine that with clinical rules to create
Mm,
very accurate AI that can then be packaged into use cases or products for the provider side and then products
right.
for the insurance company side. And then we have products that are essentially bridging the two through that whole process. But the core technology from an AI standpoint is really processing unstructured data such as X-ray images, potentially
Got
doc
it.
notes, combining that with different kinds of structured data, and then getting a whole bunch of like features from the AI models that can then be
Um,
combined with clinical rules that are quite rigorous, and then use that for these various use cases. So a big challenge for us really is around making things clinically accurate. We
yes.
have FDA approval for a variety of our algorithms, and we're constantly getting more and more of those.
Yeah.
Bar for us from an accuracy standpoint is very high,
Yeah.
which is so no hallucinating allowed in clinical
Yeah.
in the
I
dental.
agree.
And so that's one thing that's very important. Um,
Yes.
so the core product essentially is that's the core technology, which is the processing of all the unstructured and structured data around teeth and procedures, and then combining that with clinical rules to be able to then help dentists on one hand, and then insurance companies on the other hand, and then eventually can help the patient most, right? So
Right.
those are the products, and within each of those we have a whole product suite for each of these
Yeah.
pieces. But really, I think in terms of like the big things that really are unique to us, it's like I said, clinically accurate AI is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
So our team is full of clinicians talking to AI team members as well as the
Yeah.
software and product team members, all kind of coming together to make that all happen. So let me pause here and
Well,
see if you had any questions there.
this is what I want to do. This is the one of the reasons why I was looking forward to our conversation, because the problem space that you're trying to solve, right? And with healthcare experience, and where accuracy is so important, right? And where you kind of build this trust in, and then you're taking this technology with AI, which is kind of non-deterministic. And depending on what side of the bed the AI got up that morning, it can give you a very different answer,
Yeah,
right? Um, I'm curious to see how are you guys overcoming it, right?
yeah,
Because that the trust issue, or the clarity issue, or the accuracy issue is hard to engineer.
yeah. But that's a very important part. It comes down to the engineering aspects of it. Honestly, it
And
depends.
oh, by the way, we actually have quite a few people join us on LinkedIn. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to jump in. Jonathan will be more than happy to answer. Sorry, Jen, I'm speaking for you, but yes, I know you'll be happy to answer.
Let's make this as much of a conversation as possible. We're all learning all
Yeah,
the stuff together. So happy to
perfect.
learn with the team as well.
Yeah.
But I think in
Sorry,
terms
Jan, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue.
of clinical, how do you make it clinically accurate? How do you make it more? When do you make it more deterministic? How when do you not make it deterministic? It depends a lot on the specific use case that you're doing, specific feature that you're working on.
Yeah,
When it comes to looking at X-rays of your teeth and then figuring out like what's happening with your teeth, then the guardrails have to be very tight and so you have to really you have to manage the whole process of coming up with the result very carefully, so that you can do some parts of it with like kind of image processing algorithms,
Yeah.
some potentially with generative algorithms, but mostly it's mostly image processing algorithms, and then from there you have to guide it through with clinical rules in very well defined manners, with a lot of clinical domain knowledge kind of baked into it to kind of come up with final results. There's a lot of testing to be done. Every step of the process, we actually have clinicians involved. We have dentists involved every step
Yeah.
of development. So that's one thing that's quite unique about Overjet, that I haven't seen many other places, which is in
Nice.
healthcare side, is the amount of clinical depth that we pump into the whole product development process is pretty phenomenal. And you need
Yeah.
to do that to get the clinical accuracy AIs. Uh,
Yes.
it's an iterative process. You've got to get that done. So in the clinical results side of things, you have to put tight guardrails, and you have to make it more deterministic than non. Um, Now, on the other side, when you're trying to synthesize all the information and then come up with, like, for example, some kind of like notes, right, or a
Yeah.
summary of what needs to be done, there you have more tolerance for error, and more kind of more creative freedom in a way for
Yes.
the to be able to kind of come up with like a narrative that is good, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be super precise and exact, right? And it's okay if things change off and on. In those
You have a
cases,
bit more leeway. Yeah.
won't be there. So it depends on which part of the flow you're in, and so we
Yeah.
have to actually study that very carefully to kind of make that call.
Can I, if it's okay with you, can I just dig in on the first part? On the clinical side, you talked about you put in certain guardrails. Can I ask you what kind of guardrails are you running it through multiple models so you can get a much more react like what how are you overcoming that, right? Because different companies are trying to do it differently, right? Some people have a very tight human AI collaboration. Some people do they run through different models the same question and then they kind of aggregate the results, right? And others have different processes. So I'm
Yeah,
curious where what's the approach you guys are taking and what's working? Or more importantly, what have you tried and that's not working and what's working? Let's
yeah.
do both if that's okay.
So again, in the process of actually coming up with a clinical evaluation of, let's say, a claim, there are multiple steps in the whole process.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the model building aspect of it, we use a variety of approaches, right? And it keeps changing. We're constantly evolving as well, constantly
Yeah.
getting as well. So at times we have ensembles of models. Sometimes we have multiple models running
Yeah.
separately and combine them into one model. There's multiple kind of approaches that take. The AI team is constantly innovating on that. Our goal there is to get the most accurate results,
Yeah.
and with accuracy defined based on what we are trying to do, right? And what is it trying to find out? Are we trying to find out, if you're trying to find out how what is the structural integrity of a tooth, right? How
Yeah.
much tooth is actually intact versus not? There's a certain set of techniques you got to use.
Yeah.
If you're trying to find out like what's the tooth number, because if I have a panoramic view of an X-ray, figuring out like how are the tooth numbered, right, is a certain set of problems, and there's a certain set of techniques for that. So in those cases, we essentially use the iterative process, and it's an algorithmic
Perfect. Yeah.
iteration process for that, right? Now, as we go forward, once that's happened, we then merge it with clinical rules, right, which are quite deep, and those clinical rules again we have again a lot of our dental team are the kind of dental officers, dental
Yeah.
consultants coming in and helping out there. And so those clinical rules essentially help put some of the guardrails. I've got this
Nice.
initial inputs from the models or outputs from the models. We then kind of bind it with the clinical rules,
Yeah.
come up with like answers that are more readable to a clinician, right, to a dentist.
Yes.
There are whole kinds of things, whole language around dentistry, right? And so there are
Yeah.
CDT codes, there are responses that have been described in different ways. We have to make sure that the language is what the dentist can understand. And one thing that we
Yes.
do is we then things that are non-controversial, we can go ahead and accept that are based on the rules that we have agreed with customers on.
Right.
Things that are not we're not very clear about whether we can actually accept it or not. In those cases, we actually hand it over to a dental consultant and get the human in the loop.
Got it.
And so, because we don't deny claims, so AI does not deny any claims. That has to be done by a human kind of dentist.
Yes.
We then hand that over to the dentist to essentially take a look at it and make a final call. But what we do there
Nice.
is where we have to really package things in the right way, because there's so much information that we collect,
Yeah.
we create in the whole process. our objective there when we get human in the loop is to make it easy for the dental consultant to read through the stuff and make a call fast, right? And that's
Yeah.
a big part of our value proposition. What things that typically take half an hour, 1 hour to review, right? Because you have like 5, 10 different X-rays, you've got a bunch of notes, processing all that information and figuring out like, is this legit or not, right? Or is this fine or not? It's a complicated thing to do.
Yes.
It can take a lot of
It's
time,
very
right?
complicated. Yeah.
So what we do is we package all that stuff in an optimized manner and put it all in one screen that the dentist can look at, and within a minute or two, kind of
Perfect.
make a call, right? And so that's
Yeah.
the human in the loop kind of comes in. So
Yes.
every step of the process, we have to think through the whole flow and think about like what techniques, what models to use, when to get human in the loop and not to get human in the loop. And this whole process, after we put it together, it's rinse and repeat, right? You got to keep innovating on that.
Yeah. How much are you relying on? Because the products that I've seen that work best have a good mixture of using traditional machine learning and then of course generative AI to kind of figure out, kind of fill in the gaps. Um, I'm curious how much, when you're looking at your new product development cycle, what it's hard to give you a breakdown, but how much are you relying on traditional methods versus generative methods?
It's a combination of both. Again, depends on the part of the puzzle that we're focusing on.
Yeah,
So we first of all, it depends on the flow. So in some cases where we're doing the final kind of the narration, generation and stuff like that, there we could use some generative AI. But when we go into like the actual clinical review and stuff, right, there we constrain the generative AI as much as possible. We
yeah,
more focus on kind of ML models.
especially around the rules, right? Because it's very hard.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, having said all that stuff, there are many of our customers actually do are concerned about using LLMs, right, at times because
Mm,
of concerns of security and a variety of
yeah.
concerns. In those cases, we actually give them the options, saying you could actually turn off like an LLM
Okay.
based flow if need be, because if or you can continue with that. So we do give that
Yeah.
option. But again, in general, it's a combination of multiple things. We are in a transition phase right now where the acceptance of generative AI is kind of like increasing, and
Yes.
so these questions will go away later on. But
Yeah.
we have to help
Yeah.
guide the customers that whole journey as well.
Yeah. Actually, you make a good point because a lot of this is, of course, the technology that you have to go to put it underneath it to make it work. But at the end of the day, it has to be the person who's using it has to trust the information,
That's right.
right? And so in that case, it's not just the quality of analysis or the accuracy of the analysis. It's also the user experience
That's
that you
right.
have to go through in order for them to create that trust, right? And one of the things that we talked about before is how important UI and UX is
Yeah.
when you build AI product, right? Because you can't get away from that. So I'm curious how much you guys are leaning into that to help build the trust and the comfort of using LLMs. I mean, just providing somebody with a button to turn LLM on and off is very empowering, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious what else you guys are thinking about or what else you're experimenting with.
Yeah. So trust is an important thing. And I think be a few things from a framework standpoint that may be helpful. And I'm no expert on trust. I'm still learning it
Yeah,
quite a bit. So all of us are learning about it
I
together.
think we all are.
I'd love to hear the any comments from the folks in the call as well.
Yes,
I think at
thank
a
you.
very high level, the way an AI agent kind of builds trust with a human being is very similar to the way a human being builds trust with another human being. Right? So
Yeah,
the fundamental principles are very similar. So we
yeah,
can actually piggyback off that quite extensively. And so then I was kind of searching for like, can I actually use some kind of like a framework of some sort to put some method in the madness? And back we had all kind of done strategy consult in the past, right?
yeah,
So there was really a Bible there called the Trusted Advisor by
yeah.
David Meister and the folks. And there was one framework that stuck to me. Again, it might not be,
Hmm.
but it's a decent framework. It's called the trust equation. And what that
I
essentially
remember
is,
that. Yes.
it's kind of like quantifies trust in a
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
take a management consultant to take something that is very human and turn it into an equation. Yes, I
trust equation essentially says, I mean, let's assume that the level of trust has essentially is an equation where you have on the denominator you have three factors. You've got credibility, you've got reliability, and you've got intimacy. And then
Yes.
in the denominator you have self-orientation, right? And so if you want to build trust, you want to push on all these fronts, where the more credibility you have, the more trust you build. The more reliability you have, the more trust you build. The more intimate you are with the other
Yeah.
person, the more trust you have. And the
Yeah.
more self-oriented you are, the less trust you have, right? And
Yeah.
that's the denominator. So it's kind of a little bit of a framework. So you can use that same framework to really think about how do I do product design and build
Yes.
trust in product design. Should we go into each of those pieces, or
Yeah. Yeah. Please. Yeah, we
perfect?
have time. Yeah.
So on the credibility side of things, I think it's really all about like uh, making sure, first of all, you are explaining why you're doing what you're doing, and so explainability, being transparent, becomes very
Yes.
important, right? So black boxes in general are scary.
Yes.
So and in general, the nature of AI is one where it's very black boxish, right? Even the people who actually write the algorithms don't know exactly why something's happening. So there's a lot of research going on regarding how to make things more explainable.
Yeah.
Techniques that we use is one where we essentially again marry AI with clinical rules in a very rich manner,
Yeah.
and so we are able to find a line by which we can essentially explain why something is happening without having to go into every single algorithmic detail, right? And there's a lot of art and science behind that.
Very much. Yes.
Really about like if I had to explain to a dentist why we said this is a particular response, right? Or what is exactly
Yeah.
what is the particular procedure that has to be used, or is it right or wrong? Then I have to. There's a certain set of like English statements I've used, right? And what would those be, and how do we generate those automatically? And that's the credibility part of it. Really, it's all about
Yeah.
explaining. It's all about saying I give you an answer, and if you want to query into why I got the answer, I can give you that answer too. That's a
Yeah.
big. So that's the credibility part of it. The second part is
You
reliability.
actually expose that to your users to show exactly how you came to the answer.
So again, it's iterative. We keep doing that,
Yes.
but whenever we give an answer, we can say this is why we did it. And again, it's an iterative process. Sometimes they
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we kind of add
That's good.
more. But that's
Right.
a big part of what we do, and a
Yeah.
big
I
part of what.
actually think that's one of the reasons why the thinking models are so popular, because it actually shows, it doesn't expose everything, of course, but it at least shows why it's making certain decisions, right?
Yeah. In fact, I
Um,
mean, I think a big reason why when you have these agents which are actually running a plan behind the scenes,
yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why they actually show the plan is to tell you this is kind of what it is. It's not a black
Yeah.
box. Let
Yeah.
me walk you through the steps. And I
Yes.
think that actually, I love the way I think Cloud does that, and I think ChatGPT also does that sometimes, which
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
tells you like, are you okay with this plan?
Are you okay with this? Yeah.
And so it's essentially just like a human being talking to another human being saying, you asked me a question, let me walk you through how I think about it, how to think about answering it. Are you okay with that or not, right? So that's essentially part of the whole explainability equation. So these are all like techniques that we're using. A lot of it might not be actually required from a user stand for actually getting the
Yeah.
answer efficiently. You might be actually adding some friction in the process as you do that, but it's actually the right thing because you're getting the trust along the way, right?
Perfect.
That's
We actually have a question from the audience. It's actually more of a statement, but I'm going to actually turn it into a question. So Ramesh, thanks for asking. Um, I like your comment. The trust equation is a direct and accurate way to do this. But I'm wondering, I'm going to turn your thing into a question. It's like, I'm wondering what the limitations are, right? Because when you talked about the 4 dimensions, Jayant, in your opinion, what are the limitations of using that trust equation?
Yeah, I think the big limitation is it's not like numerically precise, right? So, is credibility more important than reliability? Is that more important than intimacy? And those kind of things, we have to make a judgment on that based on that particular use case. In some cases, some factors are more important than the others, which is why I mean it's kind of takes us to a certain point. And you're absolutely right, Ramesh. I mean, it is not meant to be. We can't use it like this is the equation, that's it, right? But I think it's more about it's a directional framework that takes us to a certain point, after which we have to use our data, our instincts to sort out what needs to be
I
done.
agree.
And it really has.
I wish we could take something like human emotion and turn it into something quantitative, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
that
is
doesn't exist.
high
Um,
qualitative to qualitative
yeah.
content.
But
But
Ramesh, you're absolutely right. It is a framework at best. with a lot of with definitely a lot of limitations.
Yeah. So again,
But
it's
sorry,
all
you had explainability and credibility. Let's talk about the other two,
yeah.
right?
Credibility is the first one we covered, which is explainability is a big
Yeah,
part. The second one is reliability, and
yeah,
reliability is there's a few parts. One is that the basic stuff like the system is got to be on, right? You have to meet your SLAs if you have an enterprise software. That's one part of it, which is very basic. But the other part of it is the deterministic part of it. I mean, is the answer going to be deterministic or not? Is it going
right.
to hallucinate? How creative can the system
Yes,
be? And that is completely based on the context, right? So
yes,
like we spoke in the context of clinical judgment, right, on a particular claim that's come in, you don't have the right to hallucinate too much. There's not much creative freedom, and you have a lot of creative freedom in terms of building up the algorithms, but the final outcome should be deterministic, so that's important. And so you have to put tighter guardrails. But in terms of like um, image generation, video generation,
yeah,
stuff that's out there, right? You kind of want it to hallucinate sometimes because you want to discover new things, right?
yeah,
And you want to be
yeah.
surprised about what out of it. That's the
I
purpose.
agree.
Like I use ChatGPT, Cloud, and others at many times, right? Just to get like if I get stuck something on some problem,
Yes,
some
yeah,
uh, note I've got to write, right? It helps me
yeah,
just unstuck, right?
yeah.
So to get out of
Hallucinations is just another word for it's just another part of the coin for creativity,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, because you can use hallucinations to your advantage
So if I
in certain use cases.
yeah,
Yeah,
if I want to brainstorm with a partner, right? AI is a great
exactly.
way of doing that. So those kind of things. So reliability in the context, I actually want it to be creative in
Yeah,
those contexts, but in other contexts, reliability means I want to get a precise answer, right?
yeah,
So that's the reliability part of it. How reliable can it be? The other piece is intimacy, which is the third part of the
yes.
numerator, which is this is an important one, which is it's really about like, are you getting the user or not? Right? And
Mm,
a lot of it is around the understanding the user's context. Um, Part of it is just figuring out like who are you designing for, who's
yeah,
the persona, but also can you actually do you have some background information for the user that you can use to answer the question. So if it's my 13-year-old son kind of asking the question, the answer is given in a particular way. If I am asking the same question, the answer
yeah,
might be in a particular way, right?
yeah,
So that understanding the user context is one part of it, and the language that you use, right, is
yes.
part of it. For
This
language,
is where I think AI does so well,
yes, yes,
right? Because it can just, the underlying data cannot, may not have to change, but the way it's presented back can be very customized and personalized. And I like the way you're thinking about it, because it is about intimacy, right? It's a different way of interacting with technology.
it is actually scaringly intimate right now, which is kind of
Yes.
when I sometimes when I'm going for a drive, I upload a document into like Notebook LM, right? And I
Yeah.
kind of podcast and
Do you
sometimes
use the podcast feature? Yeah.
the podcast feature sometimes, so that's pretty cool. But I also when I sometimes I upload stuff into kind of again Chat GPT or Claude, and then I start having a voice interaction regarding the document, and it actually knows some of the other things that I've asked in the past, and it can
Yeah.
actually do it based on that context, which is great. I think the whole thing about like expanding the token window, expanding the
Yes.
window, and being able to have a more personalized conversation is a big part of that.
Yes.
Being able to also uh, talk in a language that is starting with the user and then working backwards, right? It's also a big thing, which is
Yes.
I don't want you to do unnatural things like selecting a bunch of like pull downs here and there and going
Yeah.
through complicated workflows, right, to get an answer. You can just ask a question, you can just upload an image, and you can get an answer. And that's a
Perfect.
big part as well. So the language that you use, the more natural it is, the more intimate you are. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, which is I think in the generative AI actually has really made a step change in how intimate you can be as a system, which is it's a big
Very
plus.
much. Yeah.
It's a big plus
It,
point.
it is one of the best things you can do for personalization to a T, right? Not just to a cohort, to
Yeah,
a individual,
yeah,
which has been the holy grail. Well, our days from Google, right? Everything was trying to personalize, and we use cohorts because that was the closest we can get. But now you can get to that person, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
It's terrific.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Good.
if we go down to now the last part, which is the one of
Yes.
the which is self orientation. I think the way I think about that is it's really about it's all about making sure that when you're building the product, you're clear about the problem that you're trying to solve and doing it in
Mm,
the context of the problem. There's a huge tendency, there's so much cool technology available to us right now,
yes.
and there's so much of pressure for us to just expose the technology as that
Yeah.
technology, right? That it becomes silly sometimes, like the design.
Yes.
And so, really
Yeah.
designing things very with the user in mind, with the use case in mind, and being very thorough about that is a big part of it. Which is where
Yeah.
I think when he spoke earlier, right, he spoke about UI being a big part of it. I think
Yes.
one of the jokes that we had earlier was the secret of AI is the UI, right? So
Yes.
good
I
AI
agree.
is a good UI, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it all comes down to really a deep understanding of
Yeah.
what's the problem you're trying to solve, who are you trying to solve for. Let me put that in. So, an
No, I
example,
agree. And sometimes as PMs, we are just as guilty because we want to play in the new sandbox, right? So now suddenly,
yep,
you know, uh, we're using that for everything. But you're absolutely right. Keep dedicated to your problem, and the user is the key.
yeah,
And
yeah,
going back to first principles, right? And sometimes it's hard for us to pull back. But yes.
yeah. I was just bringing up an example from Overjet, which is actually just comes to mind, where I described the whole thing about getting the human in the loop right at the end,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a consultant reviewing the claims. There are some screens there that are quite critical to design. That's where we have to put a lot of creative energy. The onus is on us to put a lot of creative energy so that
Yeah.
we tailor it to the dentist who has a specific way of looking at things,
Yeah.
who has specific language that we have to use that is not plain English, right? But it has to be in the language the dentist can quickly understand,
Yeah.
and so a lot of owners kind of really falls in that, and that really drives a lot of ROI because every single minute, every single second you shave off in that whole process is leads to a lot of like benefits
Yeah.
down the road, cost benefits down the road. So that's one example where you really have to let go of like the technology part of it and say, let me actually just go get myself completely in the user's mind and think about like what's that screen going to look like, what's the
Yeah.
language look like.
Perfect. I love your equation, and I love the way you guys are thinking about it and implementing it because you're absolutely right. You are trying to recreate the way humans trust each other, but now you actually have this great technology called AI, and then you're trying to build all of that stuff into it.
Yeah,
We have a few more minutes left. If there's any comments, please let us know. What do you think about Jian's equation? Do you like it? Do you not like it? How do you think AI is important? Sorry, UI is important to AI? Feel free to make any comments because I just have one last question before we end our show. Jayant, if it's okay with you, let's just skip to the future, right? So these are the things that you are actually doing now and the problems you're solving. I'm curious, when you think about where you guys are, like what are the big challenges that you guys are still like, oh, this is big. I don't know yet how to get around this, right? What are some of the big challenges that you're trying to overcome
yeah, yeah,
or you foresee these challenges happening and maybe the technology is not there or the way we thinking is not there.
yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are.
This is a great one. I think these are opportunities for us because if we are able to solve it, then we also become differentiated
Yeah.
because of that, right? We are able to add more value. But
Yeah.
one thing that is, thanks, Ramesh. I think one thing that is really kind of bubbles up to the top is how is a way to in the enterprise setting. So the work that we do is largely in the enterprise side of things, right? We
Yeah.
do things. So enterprise, I mean, AI is going to become quite like important in the
Yeah.
enterprise market. So one thing that we got to sort of think about is how do we make this very minimally invasive, right? So
Mm,
you can't. There's so much that can be done. It is tough for an organization to absorb all that change in one shot,
yeah.
and you don't want every single thing to become like a major integration effort of some sort. So one thing that really is kind of top of mind for me is how can we make all of our products like super easy to implement. We're pushing in
Yeah.
that direction. I think we're not too bad. We do actually can get up and running in a few weeks, but still, there's a lot more we can do in that front.
Yeah.
And
Give me
change.
give me an example of what you mean by minimally invasive. Like, tell me like, or maybe it's because you've had some pushback in the past.
Yeah,
Why you've been trying to go too fast and the customer is saying, "Oh, slow down."
Right.
um,
No, it's mostly around like I mean, if you look at a typical enterprise software implementation, right?
yeah,
There is a pretty big heavy lift
it
to
is
it come to life, and a lot of it is because of like extremely rule-based logic that you could apply
right.
to stitch everything together precisely so that it all works, right? And I think it's a very laborious process. Uh,
Yes,
System A that has to send data to system B. System B has to send data to system back to system A.
yes,
Has to send data to system C.
yeah,
Every step of the way, you have to like really handcraft and precise
yes.
lay out exactly how all that stuff has to be connected. I think there is an opportunity for AI to play a role in being able to.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um,
because you're really talking about the internal plumbing of how you move data around, so you can actually
that's
get
right.
that
And how can
piece.
you do that? I mean, there's some
Yeah,
approaches where people are saying you don't have to move data around. I can actually go directly
yeah,
to your existing source system and then run off that. Some people are finding ways to um, kind of like connect the data points using
yeah,
AI through logic about like the
yeah,
fields,
yeah.
right? And being able
Got
to
it.
connect the dots.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of things there. So I think there's a lot more to be done there. But I
yeah.
think there's opportunity for us to make it super easy to plug these things in and add value very fast.
Yeah, that's a hard one too, because I mean, AI systems use a lot of data, right? They consume a lot of data, and the velocity of data has to be accurate too, because it's not just about not just the volume of data, but how fast you can get that data and ingest it in the models. I mean,
Right.
you're absolutely right. I thought that you meant the other way, in which the enterprises were more about not looking to adopt systems that actually have AI because of the trust issue. But you're uncovering an even bigger problem. Right?
Yeah, I think the
And
trust part of it, honestly, if you have strong controls around it, and we've invested a lot in Overjet to
yeah,
establish that.
it
So we have
looked yeah,
SOC,
definitely.
we've got high trust compliance,
Yeah,
very rigorous kind of like contractual constraints around how do we
mhm,
manage data, so on and so forth, right? That part of it is people are getting more comfortable with.
yeah,
And but I think the part is how do we get ROI faster? There is so much
yeah,
efficiency you can get. How do we speed that process up, and how do we
yes,
do it in bite-sized chunks instead of like doing a kind of a big bangish approach, right? So
yeah,
that's what we have to look at, and it's almost like instead of kind of moving an aircraft carrier, right? How do we create these speedboats and kind of like quickly
yes,
down and
yes.
get more ROI faster? And that's what we want to
Yeah.
shoot for.
But what I like is, listen, I'm fortunate enough, knock on wood, to talk to a lot of people who are building AI products. What I like about your approach, it's very thoughtful from the way, and even just on the trust piece, for example, it's very thoughtful the way you guys are approaching it, because you're absolutely right. In many ways, you want to mimic the human AI or the human to human conversation and put AI in the middle of it, right? And I like the four dimensions you're putting, and also the experimentation approach
Yeah,
that you guys have, because it is hard to get it just right. Um, but I think it can be very powerful when you actually can get the accuracy right, and then you can get that personalization and customization right, because I think that unlocks a lot of value.
yeah,
This has been fantastic, John. I can actually talk to you, and we can go deeper as till the cows come home. If it's okay with you, I would love to have you back in about a year or so, and you can tell me how things are going and how you've overcome the challenges that you just talked about the internal plumbing and moving data around and making it easy so you can get to the high ROI, and then what new challenges you're facing, so we can continue the conversation. Um,
absolutely, absolutely, Musa.
this is great. By the way, thank you guys for your comments as well. Thank you, Ramesh, for your questions. If there's anyone else, other than that, that's it for today. Jayant, thank you. This is great. Thanks for
Thanks.
being again. Yes.
Great, perfect, great
Bye.
conversation. Thank you.
Bye for
Take care.
now, guys.
Bye.